you're afraid to tell anybody because you think that you're going to get taken away. Police coming in and, banging in the door and, the radio's going and guns and you're just a child. It's just like...
At 60, the life of Shania Twain, the queen of country pop, stands as one of the most inspiring and heartbreaking journeys in music history. To the world, she's the woman behind hits like Man, I Feel Like a Woman, and You're Still the One. But behind the sparkle, success, and Smile is a story carved out of tragedy, loss, and unshakable resilience. Long before she filled stadiums and became one of the best-selling female artists of all time, Shania faced more pain than most could imagine. From poverty so deep she often went hungry, to losing both her parents in a sudden accident, her early years were a constant battle for survival. And just when she thought she had found love, betrayal from those closest to her would break her heart again. Yet even through illness, heartbreak, and near silence, Shania Twain never stopped fighting. Her journey isn't just one of fame. It's a story of rebuilding from ashes, of standing tall when the world expected her to fall. Today, at 60, she carries her scars with pride. Her voice, once nearly silenced by disease, has returned. Her heart, once shattered by betrayal, has found peace. But behind that strength lies the quiet truth, the pain that shaped the legend she became. This is the heartbreaking, yet deeply inspiring story of Shania Twain, the woman who lost everything and still found her voice again. Before the world knew her as Shania Twain, she was Eileen Regina Edwards, a small-town girl from Timmins, Ontario, growing up in the harsh cold of northern Canada. Life for young Eileen was anything but glamorous. Her childhood was a story of survival, of hunger, hardship, and holding her family together through sheer willpower. Born on August 28, 1965, Shania was the second of 5 children. Her parents, Sharon and Clarence, separated when she was just 2 years old. Later, her mother married Jerry Twain, a man of Ojibwe descent, who adopted Eileen and gave her the name that would one day become famous around the world, Twain. But despite the new name and new beginnings, the family's financial struggles never eased. In interviews, Shania has spoken openly about the poverty that defined her early years. There were nights when I went to bed hungry, she once said. We didn't always have enough food, and I tried to make sure my younger siblings ate before I did. At school, she would quietly hide her hunger, often embarrassed to admit how little they had. Her clothes were hand-me-downs, and the electricity would sometimes get cut off. Music became her only escape. By the age of 8, she was already performing in bars and clubs, not for fame or attention, but to help her family buy groceries. While most kids were asleep or watching cartoons, Shania was standing on smoky bar stages, singing songs far beyond her years. I'd finish my set at midnight, she recalled, and then get up at 6 a.m. for school. That was just my life. But her love for music wasn't just about survival. It was destiny. Her mother recognized her extraordinary voice and pushed her to keep singing, even when life grew unbearable. Yet, at home, things weren't easy. Her stepfather, Jerry, was known for his temper, and Shania has spoken candidly about the chaos and abuse that sometimes filled their household. There was violence, she admitted in her memoir From This Moment On. I saw things a child should never see. It was fear mixed with love. Despite the turmoil, Shania's determination only grew stronger. She poured every emotion, fear, sadness, hope, into her music. By her late teens, she was writing her own songs and dreaming of making it big in Nashville. Though few believed a girl from the Canadian wilderness could ever make it in country music, then, in 1987, tragedy struck in the cruelest way imaginable. Shania's parents, Sharon and Jerry, were killed in a devastating car accident, leaving her, at just 22 years old, to care for her younger siblings. Overnight, her dreams of stardom vanished. My world just collapsed, she said. I became the head of the family. There was no time for music, just survival again. Shania took a job at Deerhurst Resort in Ontario, performing in small shows to pay the bills. It was steady work, and her voice began to attract attention from people in the music industry. Still, she sang each night with a broken heart, holding on to the memory of the parents who had sacrificed everything for her dreams. In time, that heartbreak became her strength. One music producer who heard her sing at the resort was so moved that he helped her record a demo tape, one that would eventually find its way to Nashville from those cold Canadian nights to the bright lights of Music City. Shania Twain's story was just beginning, but even as her dreams began to take shape, she carried the scars of her childhood, scars that would later shape her music, her voice, and her soul. As she once said, "I've known fear. I've known loss, but those things don't define you. How you rise above them does." When Shania Twain finally arrived in Nashville in the early 1990s, she carried nothing but a demo tape, a suitcase, and a dream. She didn't have connections, money, or even a clear plan, just an unshakable belief that music was her purpose. But Nashville wasn't an easy place for outsiders. The city was dominated by traditional country artists, and Shania's powerful, crossover pop country sound was unlike anything the industry had seen. Her big break came when she signed with Mercury Nashville Records in 1992. Her debut album, Shania Twain, showcased her potential but didn't make a huge impact. Still, it caught the ear of one very important person, a world-renowned rock producer named Robert John Mutt Lange. Known for his work with AC/DC, Def Leppard, and Bryan Adams, Mutt was immediately captivated by Shania's voice and spirit. He reached out to her and the two began collaborating. What started as a musical partnership quickly turned into something deeper. Within 6 months of meeting, they were married, and their creative chemistry would soon transform country music forever. Together, Shania and Mutt created The Woman in Me, 1995, the album that changed everything. With hits like Any Man of Mine and Whose Bed Have Your Boots Been Under, Shania became an instant sensation. Her unique blend of country storytelling, pop production, and feminist confidence broke every rule in the book. The album sold over 20 million copies and earned her a Grammy Award, cementing her status as a new kind of superstar, one who could dominate both country and pop charts simultaneously. Then came Come On Over, 1997, and with it, history. The album became the best-selling country album and the best-selling album by a female artist of all time, with more than 40 million copies sold worldwide. Songs like Man, I Feel Like a Woman, and That Don't Impress Me Much and You're Still the One became global anthems. Shania Twain wasn't just a star. She was a phenomenon. Yet, behind the glittering awards and sold-out arenas, life was far from perfect. The pressure of fame was immense, and the expectations even heavier. Shania often described herself as shy, uncomfortable with the spotlight. People saw me as confident, she once said, but I was terrified half the time. I had to play the part of the strong woman I wanted to become. Her relationship with Mutt also began to show cracks. While their musical partnership thrived, their personal life grew distant. The two lived largely in isolation in Switzerland, away from the glare of Hollywood, raising their son Ija and focusing on work. But beneath the calm surface, trouble was brewing. Trouble that would soon shatter Shania's world once again. In 2008, Shania discovered that Mutt Lange had been having an affair, not just with anyone, but with her best friend and personal assistant, Marie-Anne Thiebaud. The betrayal was devastating. It was the shock of my life, she later admitted. I felt like I'd lost my husband, my best friend, and my sense of trust all at once. The woman who had written love songs that defined a generation suddenly found herself heartbroken and alone. Shania withdrew from public life, canceling tours and appearances. She disappeared from the music scene almost entirely. For years, fans wondered where she had gone, unaware that she was fighting not just emotional pain, but something far worse. Around the same time, Shania began experiencing serious problems with her voice. She was later diagnosed with Lyme disease, a condition that damaged her vocal cords and left her uncertain if she'd ever sing again. I thought my career was over, she confessed. I couldn't hit notes anymore. I couldn't control my pitch. I thought the music was gone forever. It was a cruel twist. To lose her voice just as she was losing her marriage. Everything she had worked for seemed to crumble at once. But as she would later prove, Shania Twain was never one to stay down for long. Out of heartbreak and pain, a new kind of strength was about to emerge, one that would redefine her not just as an artist, but as a survivor. For years, Shania Twain seemed to vanish from the spotlight, a shocking disappearance for one of the most successful artists of her generation. After the double blow of her husband's betrayal and her battle with Lyme disease, the woman once known for her dazzling stage presence and unstoppable voice went silent. Fans wondered what had happened to the global superstar who once ruled both country and pop music. Behind closed doors, Shania's world had grown painfully small. The illness that nearly destroyed her voice also affected her nerves, causing weakness and vocal fatigue. Doctors told her the damage could be permanent. I felt like I'd lost my identity, she admitted. I was a singer who couldn't sing. It felt like a death. Emotionally, she was still reeling from the end of her marriage. The affair between her husband, Mutt Lange, and her best friend, Marie-Anne Thiebaud, left deep scars that time alone couldn't heal. It was like my world just collapsed again, she said. I'd already lost my parents. Now I'd lost my husband, my best friend, and my voice. I didn't know how to move forward. Shania retreated to Switzerland, living quietly and focusing on her son, Aja. She avoided public events, interviews, and the spotlight that had once been her second home. For nearly a decade, the woman whose songs defined empowerment and confidence was fighting private battles that few could see. During this period of silence, Shania found herself confronting not only her pain, but also her identity. Who was she without fame? Without music? For so long I was the strong one, she reflected. But I realized I needed to allow myself to be weak, to break down, to heal. Ironically, it was through heartbreak that she found love again, in the most unexpected way. Frédéric Thiebaud, the ex-husband of the woman who betrayed her, had gone through the same pain. The two bonded over their shared grief and became each other's source of comfort. What began as friendship slowly grew into something more profound. We were two broken hearts that helped each other heal, Shania said. He brought love and laughter back into my life when I thought I'd never feel either again. In 2011, Shania married Frédéric, and with him by her side, she began to rebuild her confidence, piece by piece. But her voice remained fragile. Determined not to give up, she sought help from vocal therapists and surgeons, undergoing an experimental procedure to strengthen her vocal cords. It was risky. There was no guarantee she'd ever sing the same again. After years of silence, Shania began performing privately, testing her new voice in small sessions. It was deeper, raspier, different, but still undeniably her. It's not the same voice I had, she said, but maybe that's okay. Maybe this voice tells my story now. In 2017, after nearly 15 years without a new studio album, Shania Twain returned with Now, a deeply personal record that chronicled her journey through heartbreak, illness, and rebirth. Songs like Life's About to Get Good and Poor Me resonated with fans who had followed her through every phase of her life. The album debuted at #1 in multiple countries, proving that her magic hadn't faded. It had evolved. Her comeback was more than just musical. It was spiritual. I had to start over, she said in an interview. But starting over isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it's the only way to rediscover who you are. When Shania took the stage again, first in Las Vegas, then on tour, the applause was deafening. Fans cried as she sang the very songs that had once defined their own strength. The woman who had been silenced by illness and heartbreak had reclaimed her voice, her identity, and her power. Her return wasn't about perfection. It was about authenticity. She no longer needed to prove herself. She just needed to be Shania. As Shania Twain turned 60, the world looked back at her incredible journey, a story filled with triumph, tragedy, and unshakable resilience. While most artists of her era had long faded from the spotlight, Shania stood tall, not as the same glittering superstar of the 1990s, but as a woman who had been through life's harshest storms and found peace on the other side. For Shania, age wasn't a setback, it was liberation. "I've earned every line, every scar, and every story," she said. "I used to fear aging, but now I see it as power. I'm still here, still singing, still loving life." Her 2023 album, Queen of Me, perfectly embodied that spirit. It wasn't about chasing chart positions or recreating old glory. It was about self-acceptance. Songs like Waking Up Dreaming and Giddy Up celebrated freedom, joy, and the courage to live unapologetically. Her new look, bold, playful, and experimental, symbolized a woman finally free from expectations. But her comeback wasn't just artistic. It was deeply personal. After years of hiding her vulnerability, Shania began to open up about her trauma, her illness, and her insecurities. In interviews and her Netflix documentary, Not Just a Girl, she spoke candidly about the toll fame took on her and the strength it took to survive it. "I didn't want to be a victim of my past anymore," she said. "I wanted to be the writer of my future." At 60, Shania had finally made peace with the woman she had become. She had overcome a broken marriage, rebuilt her career, survived multiple surgeries, and emerged stronger than ever. The timid girl from Timmins, Ontario, who once sang to escape poverty, had become a global symbol of hope and perseverance. Her fans, spanning generations, connected not just with her music, but with her story. Many saw themselves in her struggles, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the illness, and the relentless fight to keep going. Shania had become more than an icon. She was an example of how to keep shining, no matter how dark life gets. Despite everything, she never lost her humility. "I don't take anything for granted anymore," she said. "When I walk on stage and the lights hit me, I feel gratitude. Every note I sing is a blessing." Even as she celebrated milestones in her career, Shania remained committed to causes close to her heart. Through her foundation, Shania Kids Can, she helped children facing poverty and abuse, a reflection of her own difficult childhood. "I know what it feels like to be hungry, scared, and alone," she said. "If I can make a difference in even one child's life, that means everything." Her Las Vegas residencies and world tours continued to sell out, proving that her star power had never truly dimmed. But more importantly, audiences weren't just showing up for nostalgia. They came to witness her strength. Each performance was a reminder that her legacy wasn't built solely on hits like Man, I Feel Like a Woman, or You're Still the One. It was built on her resilience. As Shania looked ahead, she embraced the next chapter with grace and confidence. "I've stopped worrying about what comes next," she said in a recent interview. "I'm just enjoying the ride. I'm proud of the woman I am today." In the end, Shania Twain's story is not one of tragedy, but of triumph. From poverty to superstardom, from heartbreak to healing, from silence to song. She has lived a life that few could endure and come out smiling. At 60, Shania stands not just as a music legend, but as a living reminder that strength is born from struggle. Her voice, though changed, carries even more emotion now, a symbol of every battle she's fought and every dream she's reclaimed. And when she steps on stage, bathed in lights, fans don't just see the queen of country pop. They see a survivor. They see Shania Twain, the woman who refused to give up, no matter how hard life tried to silence her.